Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the KimUnity Soulutions Podcast, the only podcast that turns workplace challenges into real world solutions. It is so good to be with you all today. I hope you all are having a wonderful week. Let's get into it. Today, I have to ask you a question. I'm curious. What do you hear or how do you feel when you hear the word human resources or the term HR? How does that make you feel? If you were to ask me that, I would say it makes me cringe. It makes me just ball up on the inside. Does it make you frown up, or are you simply unmoved? Of course, this all pertains to our own lived and unlived experiences inside the workplace, whether or not you've had a pleasant or unpleasant experience with human resources. That is what we're going to be speaking about today. Why HR has an HR, or should I say horrible reputation? Why does human resources have a horrible reputation? And that's what I want to speak to you all today. Why is that? And I know everyone doesn't have the same experience, but I cringe up. I cringe up just like if I was to run into someone and they say, yes, I just retired. I've been with this employer for 35, 40 years. I cringe up because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you have seen so much. You have experienced so much. I know you had points of frustration and, wanting to just throw in the towel. This is what I'm thinking to myself. Again, it's because of my own experiences, where theirs could have been very pleasant. I mean, maybe they weren't the ones being tortured. They could have been the ones torturing, right? You never know. But again, not all companies have toxic environments. So I can see how someone can be employed for that long with one company. And especially when there's multiple departments, you can move around, you get promoted. Everyone doesn't get to see that life. Everyone doesn't have those same pleasantries. So today I want to talk about the reasons why HR gets a bad rep. Why do they? And at the end of this, if I've skipped anything, please comment. I want to hear your version. I want to hear if I've left anything out, if you had an experience that I didn't have. But again, this is coming from my experiences. Of course, I am Kim, the SME, the speaker of my experiences. So I'm going to go through a list of things that I just wrote down. The first one is they're secluded. That human resources department is secluded. It's off to the side. And of course it's for confidentiality reasons. I totally understand that. But they're secluded. They are not in the company of all the other departments. So when you do see them, the employees that are working in that department, it's one-offs, or you don't get to see them work. It's like a behind closed doors type of affair, right? So that's one thing, because if I can't see you, then I can't trust you. It's very hard to trust you. When I do see you, you're coming out, you're pulling people in, or you're in closed door conversations with management, leadership, other employees. And so there's always a question mark around the HR employees as they're walking around the office, because we never know, what the interaction is going to be about, what their plan is. It's the unknown. And so not only are you coming into other departments where we don't really understand what's going on, but you're also secluded for the other 7 hours of your day. That's one thing. So you're disconnected. Those people are disconnected. And again, this is from my experiences. Not all departments are set up the same. Not everyone has the same type of mentality, but this is coming from my experiences. And of course, I want to hear what your experience is. The second reason I believe human resources has a horrible reputation is because they're biased or they're perceived to be biased. They support the organization, the business. They do not support or advocate for the employee, especially the frontline employees. From my experiences, you tell me what yours is. There's a bias. So if we're told that if you have any challenges or if you're facing something, or even if you have a question, go to HR, they'll be more than happy to help you. But when you go to them, and depending on what you're speaking about, you may be misled into thinking that, yes, they are for me, or they're going to help me. They're going to come back with an explanation or advice or a solution or mediation, something. But that doesn't always happen. Next time you speak to them, you can tell that they have kind of switched sides. They have been swayed. They are now approaching it at a totally different angle. So yes, now you see that they do have a biased side. And of course, we're not paying them. The employees aren't paying them. They're getting paid by the business, the organization. So of course, they are there to support them. Just as if you had an attorney and you paid them, they should be there to support you. Right? So that's how this works. So that's number 2, the second reason of why human resource members, managers, staff, why they get a bad rap. The third reason is they lack preventative measures. In my experience, once again, I've never really seen them be proactive and take preventative measures. It's always after the fact, especially in the early stages. It's almost as if there's not enough information that they believe that they can do anything. They have to wait for something to happen. And then, of course, it's too late. Now there's legal ramifications. And so now the approach is totally different. So there are no preventative measures. When is the last time they've actually checked the suggestion box or encouraged the employees to use the suggestion box, or came out and said, hey, these are the suggestions we've received. We're looking at it. This is the angle we're taking. These are the options. These are the solutions that we are presenting. We hear you. We want this to work out. You know, there's none of that. There's none of that transparency. There's none of that support. No advocacy. This is why they have a bad rep, because again, there's no transparency. You don't see what's going on. You don't know what's going on. There's a lot of closed door conversations. Then there's rumors that get started. It's very hard to prevent or take preventative measures when you are sometimes part of the problem. How does that even happen? How does that even happen? So I looked up human resources and I was like, okay, I need to find out exactly what all do they do. So of course they recruit. They're the ones that recruit the new employees. It is also their role to retain the employee. So after they recruit you, it's like an investment, right? You're an asset, and we'll come back to that. But you're an asset, so they want to be able to retain you, to keep you. So of course, training and development should be one of their focuses. They should want you to grow, because as you grow, the company grows, the innovation builds up and increases. Okay, they're also involved in the benefits packages and the pay. They have to make sure everything's in compliance. They are also monitoring the legal responsibilities. They have to make sure the organization adheres to the labor laws. And this is coming from Investopedia, and employment standards to mitigate legal risk. So when I hear that, HR ensures that the organization adheres to the labor laws. What I hear when I hear this is that they're not saying that they support anyone else. They are saying, okay, what we hear, whatever is being reported to us, we have to make sure that we can make this align with the laws. We have to make sure that, yes, this happened, but how can we word it? How can we present it? How can we update it or change it or modify it so that we are in compliance? That is not addressing the fact that they were not in compliance initially. Do you see what I'm saying? They're working around the problem instead of addressing it. And they're doing it to the benefit of the organization. That's upfront and clear right there. And then it says to mitigate legal risk. And so I had to say, okay, I know what mitigate means, but let me look it up anyway. And Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines it as to make less harsh or severe. So it is the HR department's responsibility to make it less harsh and severe. It's not to resolve it. It's not to prevent it. It is to make it less harsh. Not cool. Okay, so far I've talked about them being secluded in different areas, popping in and out. So it's very hard to trust them, right? Then also I spoke about them being biased, being supportive only of the organization, the business, not actually an advocate of the frontline employees or the employees themselves. I also spoke about preventative measures. They're not de-escalating. They're not trying to get to the root of the problem. They're just listening mostly to what management is saying and then using that to make a final judgment or write up the report about that said employee. And again, I would love to hear your experiences. One day soon, I will have somebody on here so we can really understand their side as far as being in human resources. I actually had the opportunity to get certified in human resources because as you speak, as you go and take on these corporate speaking engagements, many organizations want you to be certified in SHRM. It's called SHRM, SHRM. And I battled with that because this whole time I've been saying, I'm not HR. I don't like what it stands for. I don't support it. I'm uncomfortable with it. So why would I go and get certified in it? And I was really struggling with that. Unlike a lot of people, there are a lot of speakers who go and get certified to be able to speak in corporations. But just like when I was in the workplace, everything doesn't always align. I don't always follow those strict rules. That's the thing about being a thought leader is you really make these decisions not because of what you're told you're supposed to do, but doesn't make sense for you. And so for me, it just didn't make sense for me because if I go and get certified, I am now thinking on their level. I'm now thinking on what goes through their mind. My whole free thought has been changed. And that's not what I want. I want to be able to think freely. I am a thought leader. I don't want to have to be constrained to those laws and those principles and that thought. I hope that makes sense to you. I want to be able to weigh the different principles. Because just because somebody gives me a handbook and it's written in there, that doesn't mean that's what I follow. That doesn't mean that that's best for the people. Whereas I take a people first approach. Okay. I believe that, and I know for sure that if we solve problems at the people level, then everything else will fall into place. But when you start putting all this other stuff and having a structured thought, that's what you have to be bound to. And I'm loose. I don't like to be bound. I'm woman thou art loosed. Okay, that's who I am. So yeah, so I have decided again, because I had to go and really think about it for sure, like, because it's really what I'm saying. Yes, it is. I don't want to be bound by that. I want to be able to think about and research a problem all the way down to its root and then rectify it, come up with solutions that are mutually beneficial. And that's the whole point of this business. That's the whole point of this podcast. It's about unifying solutions, solutions that are mutually beneficial and not simply just a one-sided opportunity. Okay, now the fourth thing is the whole scare tactics and the ego and the entitlement and the intimidation. You may see, HR walking around like they have something over you, or they are in control. They have the folders, the binders. They, be careful, watch out. It's almost like having the police in the workplace. That's the only term I could really think of, but as in, like, don't cross this line, maybe. And it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't be like that. But again, when they're not always present and you don't know what they're doing because it's so secretive, that there is an unease about it. There is an unease. Okay, the next is actions speak louder than words. And so what do I mean by I say that? What do I mean when I say actions speak louder than words? What I'm saying is that even though you may not have had those experiences, maybe you know somebody who has, and you saw how that turned out for them. So actions speak louder than words. You didn't hear anything, nothing was told to you, but you see the aftermath. You see the after effect, and then you learn from that. If you're wise, you learn from other people, whether they tell you or not, by observation. Now you know, okay, I won't do that. Okay, now, no, I will not approach this person in HR. Okay, this is what happens when you try to do right and you report it and it goes all wrong. Or you're saying, hey, this happened to me. It's not cool. It's not right. What should I do? And then it backfires. Now you're retaliated against. That's my next point. You could be doing a great job in your role. And let's say it's time for your performance evaluation, and your manager puts something in there that is totally false. And then you approach them about it. Hey, this isn't right. This never happened, or this isn't how it went down. This isn't what I told you. There's no proof of this. And then they just choose not to believe you. They don't research it or anything. And because this performance evaluation determines your bonus, your raise, your next promotion, what have you, you go up a level. Or you go to HR and say, hey, this isn't right. I need you to look at this. Or what should I do? Can you give me some guidance? Okay. And of course, they're going to go and they're going to reach out to management. They're going to hear management's side, and then they're going to side with them. Not all the time, not in every instance, not in every organization, but that is what happens. And then you say, that's not right. And now you are creating a reputation for yourself. Now it looks like you are difficult to work with. You don't take direction well. You are not a team player. You are a complainer. And so now stuff starts building up in your folder, in your file, your employee file. Now when it's time for, a position to be filled in your department or another department, this is all in your file. So now you are no longer the best candidate for that position. All of this is being built up against you. You have no idea. Sometimes you do. but it is all to limit your progression within that company. This is why human resources gets a bad rep. I'm not telling you every department does it. I'm telling you what happens. I'm telling you why they have a bad reputation. If you are in human resources, I would love to hear your side. I would love to hear your take. If this is brand new to you, if all of these instances are brand new to you, maybe you're in that organization that doesn't have any of these challenges. Or maybe you're turning a blind eye. Or maybe you're just not aware of it. Or maybe you see it from a different perspective. I would love to hear your viewpoint as well. This is how you resolve problems, is you have an open line of communication. And just because you say that it doesn't happen in your organization doesn't mean that people are not experiencing these types of situations and circumstances. Okay, so let me flip my page over here because I have some more information over here for you. Okay, the next one is HR leans more towards management than the frontline worker. I already said that. They're not an advocate. HR also tries to measure and improve the same culture that they are negatively impacting. There's a conflict there. And of course, they can't really see it because they're in it. You can't really see it, but it is hard. It's impossible to change something that you yourself are negatively impacting. You are causing the culture that you're trying to improve. You are measuring, or say that you're hiring a company to come and measure your level of positive workforce, as in your environment. This has happened to me. The company will outsource someone to come in and measure, okay, how are we doing compared to ourselves, our departments, as well as other companies. And they come in and they say that these surveys are anonymous. And then you get these surveys and they're like, we just want to see where we stand. Tell the truth. Nothing will be held against you. We really want to, improve the organization and see what your viewpoint is. And you're like, okay, it's not like you really have a choice anyway, right? So they give you this paper or they send you this email. And of course, no, it's not asking for your name. True story I'm about to tell you. No, the paper that was passed out did not ask for your name, but it asked for the last 4 digits of your work number. Okay? No, it did not ask for your name, but it asked how many people were in your department. If you tell them that, they're already going to know what department you're in. And then they ask you, okay, how many years have you been with the organization? Even if you did not fill out the last 4 digits of the phone number, if you just put how many people were in your department, as well as how long you've actually been employed there or in that role, that is so easy to identify who it is filling it out. And then it's not because of this angle, because of the details, because of the matter. Some people they can't afford to tell the truth. Some people are so worried about their bills and their income and taking care of their elderly parents or their children or themselves. They don't have time to play these games. They're just going to say everything's great and keep moving. It's not going to be 100% honest because of the ramifications, because of the retaliation. And so when I come into an organization and say, hey, these are the services that I provide, I come in there and I have conversations about, hey, these are the experiences I've went through. I know you're concerned, so I'm coming at it at a human level. at using a people first approach, saying, I totally understand what you're going through. Let me tell you what I'm not going to do. Let me tell you what I'm already aware of. And this is what you need. If you are really trying to make real change, you have to be upfront. You have to be transparent. You have to have some integrity. You have to be trustworthy. You have to have a record. You can't just start from here and say, okay, from here forward, I'm going to be good. No, you have some corrections that need to be made. You need to go back because you have a history of not telling the truth. You have a history of not being upfront. You have a history of being biased. So it's so hard for an HR representative to come in and really, truly make change because they're already not trusted. I made a phone call a few weeks ago and I was explaining my services, and the young lady was like, okay, well, we already do that. Yes, I'm in HR and we already do that. And I had a little pause because, yes, you probably do on the surface what I do. But do your employees trust you? Can they be honest with you without fear of retaliation? Without any of that? Can they really tell you what's wrong without you being offended? Can they really tell you what's wrong without you going to that person and, now there's a whole documenting process, and that's not what they signed up for. So it's always best to have somebody on the outside come in that is unbiased. So that's one other reason that HR gets a bad rap, because they are trying to correct something or measure something, improve it, that they themselves are creating. The next thing is that as many company policies there are that says do not gossip, HR gossips. They're going to go in and run with that story. They're going to go and share that information. They're going to go and give somebody the heads up. And now your story's out, and now people are looking at you funny. You already know. Then it comes back to you. That's not how you create change. That's not how you create positive change. You have to treat HR, and this is something that I learned, because if you listen to any of my previous episodes, I talk about how I was that person that had to challenge management about my performance evaluation. I mean, we had no discussions throughout the whole year, and at the end, there were like 3 or 4 things in there that was never discussed, never brought up, but you're holding that against me, like this never happened. And so I told her, I said, "Oh, I need this changed. I need you to take this out." And then I couldn't go to the person above her because they were buddy. I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere. So then I had to go above that. I had to go to HR. And no one likes when you skip the chain of command. And and because I had to go through all this, okay, now everyone says you need to document, right? So I'm documenting. And then I was prepared to go in there in the HR and say, hey, this happened here, this happened here, this happened here. Then I learned, like, no, when you approach HR, you are not supposed to give them every single detail of what happened. Why would you do that if they are not for you? Why would you do that? Why would you do that if they represent the organization? So now everything you say can and will be used against you. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's this fine line. So again, they can't say that they're for you when really it's so easy to use what you say against you. Hence, another reason why HR has a horrible reputation. The lack of empathy, the lack of problem solving. The lack of care. It's not everyone. I know someone personally who works in HR who absolutely loves it, who loves helping both sides. If there's managers who actually have challenges with their employees, there are employees who actually don't do their job, who lack trust, who lie, who don't get the work done, who, because of their lack, their work is passed on. And so, yes, documentation needs to occur. I'm not saying that all employees are right. All employees, are great for the company, are great for the team. No, that's not the case at all. But what I am saying is be fair. What I am saying is that, yes, there are great people in human resources who are actually there to do their job, and they support whoever is right, regardless of their title, regardless of, their income or their reach, their name, their reputation. Regardless of all that, they want to do what's right. And then, okay, let's start with the name. Let's not forget about the name. The whole human resources. Why? Do you really have to be reminded that we're human? I'm not even sure why that name exists. I need to research that a little further. Human resource. Let me go back, because I did look up the definition of resource as well. Resource, listen to this. Listen to this. Resource, and this is coming from the Oxford Dictionary. It says, a stock or supply of money, materials, staff, and other assets. I'm going to repeat that. Resource, the definition is a stock or supply of money, materials, staff, and other assets that can be drawn on by a person or organization in order to function effectively. So they're basically considering staff employees as things, as objects to control, to bring in, to hold, to use thoroughly, to use up. You already know what that sounds like. You're a supply, you're a resource. And so the name itself throws people off. The name itself is why HR has a horrible reputation. Because of the name. Now, I told you earlier I was going to come back to this asset part. And I just said it here again where I said, and other assets can be drawn on by a person or organization in order to function properly. Assets. Staff, employees are the business's assets. But here's the thing. Assets depreciate. Assets depreciate. So what happens is you are hired on to be an asset. As all of these situations occur that I have mentioned before, and I'm not going to say bucking the system, but you saying this isn't right, or you're written up erroneously, or any of that, you are then losing your value. You are then a depreciating asset. You are no longer as valuable as you once were. This is my take on it. This is the accounting side coming out now. At some point, you end up being an expense. You are costing the company money. You are no longer valuable. You cost them money. So they want you out. Assets depreciate. Just like a car, when you buy it off the lot, you spend all this money for it. When you get it off the lot, it drops in depreciation. Businesses value staff and employees just as they do things. This is another reason why HR gets a bad rap, because of the name itself. The name tells you exactly who you are and what you're there for. Also, HR representatives can be very inauthentic and disingenuous. Maybe they'll say that they'll resolve a problem and don't. Or they say they will and it's not as of urgent. There's no urgency. Or they allow you to book an appointment on the calendar and you go in, and then they really just want to hear your side of it so that they can counter it. They can counter argue it. Basically, they are not there to hear you. They are just there to listen and to use that for their good. And here's the other thing that I don't like. So whenever you see human resources have trainings or meetings, it's always trainings, in my opinion and in my experience, with leadership. With leadership, it's like they're always giving them guidance on the do's and don'ts. What about the other non-managerial staff? Both sides should be informed. Both sides should have a good understanding of what is right, what is wrong, what could be changed, what shouldn't be changed, what will never change. Both sides should be informed. There's no way to value one side and not the other and expect a positive change. And I've already spoken about retaliation. So as I was putting this list together, I had to really look and say, okay, if HR has a bad reputation, how could they even improve it? I was curious to see, okay, if what I am saying is true, if I'm saying that these are the reasons why they're not trusted and they've proven themselves so, what can be done about it? And so when I researched it, this is what I found. It said, okay, well, yes, they can increase their transparency. They can enhance their communication. They can be more empathetical. They can continuously improve. Okay, so how would they continuously improve? They could be proactive. They can address challenges. They can be more visible. And then it says they can hold bad managers accountable. Yes, that would be great. They could be quicker to address changes. But here's the thing with all these solutions that I see in these articles. How are they going to increase transparency? How can all of these solutions that's being provided, that is a new starting point. There's no corrective action from the prior and the past experiences. There's no way that you can start in the middle and try to improve without making the rest of it whole. Which is why I say you need somebody from the outside coming in. There's got to be some kind of resolution for those past experiences. There's no way that now you can be transparent. You have to have that conversation. You have to build that trust. You have to accept responsibility and accountability. What kind of corrective measures are you taking? What are you revisiting? So no, you can't just start from where you are in those instances because damage is already done. There's no way to correct it with those same people who have been on the receiving end of all that toxicity. There's absolutely no way. This is the list that I've come up with. I'm wondering, and I know I'm forgetting some. I know it. I would love to hear your viewpoint of what I have missed, what you believe I have gotten wrong, what your side of the story is, why it happens, who HR is for. Like, you tell me. Again, I am Kim, the SME. I am speaking from my experiences. I'm telling you exactly what my thought is, and I'm giving you supporting examples to prove that. And I would love to have change for our children that are going into the workplace. I would love to have that change. You see how I'll say monthly maybe. Monthly you hear stories about workplace violence. And I always think to myself, I wonder what signs were there before that happened. I wondered what was said before then. I wonder if any of this was brought to someone's attention prior to. I'm about preventative measures. I'm about preventative measures. And I hope you are too. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I know I did, because I was able to, I don't want to just talk about problems. I want to talk about solutions. I want to give you perspectives so you can see the other side of it. I know there are some human resource employees who are like, wow, I've never seen that. I've never heard that. I've never thought of it that way. It's so important for us to hear other people's perspectives, put ourselves in those shoes, and then see, oh, I wonder if I'm ever seen like that. I wonder if I'm ever misunderstood. I wonder if my actions are ever misunderstood. Go back and take a listen at the last few episodes. I did one about seeing seen, about what we see versus how we are seen. How we can be doing one thing, but it can be misperceived as something else. So let's come up with solutions, you all. Let's change the workplace from the inside. Let's change the world, beginning with the workplace. That's what this podcast is all about. It's all about creating a positive change in the workplace. As you can see, we are all different people from different backgrounds, and we're able to come together in the workplace to complete a mission, right? If we can do that in the workplace, we can do that outside of. I come up with solutions that can permeate outside those office walls. This is more of a movement by beginning in the workplace and spreading that energy throughout. Because what happens is we dread going to work, and then we get there and we have to deal with all these challenges within. And then when we leave, we're bringing that energy into our car. We're bringing that energy home with our family. We are sleeping with it. It is attached to us. Let's change that negative energy to positive, and let's spread it throughout, into the grocery stores, into the library, into the coffee shops. By making these small changes inside the workplace, we can change the world. I am your girl, Kim, the SME. You have been tuned in to the KimUnity Soulutions Podcast. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. You all be blessed.